Welcome to Philosophy and Critical Thinking. In today's video, I'm going to be putting forward a thought experiment called Let Me Eat Cake, a thought experiment on the value of democracy. Imagine a restaurant where the dessert is not determined by a set menu, but by the customers voting on what kind of dessert will be served. The restaurant claims to represent the desire of the customers. When the choices are made available, the customers will vote on which dessert will be served. Whichever dessert wins out will be the only dessert available for the customers to purchase. There are 3 chefs at this restaurant which will put forward their options to the customers to vote on. The first chef will serve ice cream. The second chef will serve pudding. The third chef will serve cake. Most of the time, the majority of customers vote to have cake served. They really enjoy the cake. However, some time passes and the chef that serves the cake leaves. So we're left with the other 2 chefs that offer to serve ice cream or pudding. And the customers will vote on those 2 options. Over time, the customers start to tell the restaurant, we'd like to have a cake option. But the 2 chefs will refuse to have that option available. This is not due to not having the resources or the skills to make the cake, just that they're unwilling to do so. The question I'd like to ask from this thought experiment is, does the restaurant still represent the desires of the customers? I'd say that they don't represent the desires of the customers, because even though they have options they can choose from, the option they want to choose from is not being made available to them. And it's not due to them being unable to deliver it to them, that they're unwilling to, which shows that the desires of the customers are not being represented. This thought experiment is useful when we consider the concept of democracy. The concept of democracy comes from the word demos, which translates as the common people. So therefore, a democracy is a society where it is ruled by the common people, unlike, say, a dictatorship where it's ruled by one individual person, or an oligarchy where it's ruled by the elite. A democracy is where it's ruled by the common people. The most common form of democracy we see in Western societies is a representative democracy. And this is when the common people vote for individuals that represent their interests. So the common people are still ruling the society through having control over the individuals that represent them. So if you have a representative democracy, but none of the representatives actually represent the common people, if they are deciding to make their issues that are not the major of concern of most people, where they say, well, you can vote on these issues, I represent these issues, but the main issues that the major population are concerned with, we're not going to address, then this is against the nature of democracy, because then even though you have options to vote on, none of those options are representing the will of the common people. And this is what surrounds the argument between 2 schools of thought in the United States Democratic primary at the moment regarding Bernie Sanders, who at the moment seems to be dominating most of the pledged delegates and popular vote. But then there's concerns he won't get the nomination, not due to public support, but due to not having a sufficient number of the super delegates in the Democratic Party. And so this is why they argue this is undemocratic. And this is an argument of the group which is called Bernie or Bust, saying that they do not want, they will not vote in the next general election if Bernie does not get in by those means. Because it's expressing an outrage against the undemocratic behaviour, Whereas the other school of thought, the blue no matter who, I would argue I can understand where they're coming from, and I can have sympathy with the fact that they want to get rid of Donald Trump no matter what. But at the same time, the expression of blue no matter who is expressing a implicit acceptance of the undemocratic behaviour by the Democratic Party if that's what they end up doing. So there's the two conflicting school of thoughts. I tend to follow the Bernie or bust view, because if we say, okay, we're going to accept this, it sends a message that every time this happens, they know they'll get away with it, because you'll have everyone saying blue no matter who. They'll say, okay, oh well, we'll just keep on doing it then. So this is where the thought experiment can be helpful in understanding that even though you are not, you may have choices on who to vote on, it does not necessarily mean that you are a democracy. If you want more information, you can go onto the website philosophycriticalthinking.com. On that website, there's a tutorial on arguments from analogy and thought experiments. This can be helpful in analysing thought experiments like the one you saw today. If you'd like to stick around for more tutorials or more videos or more thought experiments, please subscribe and click the bell. Thanks.